is next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and it's good to see you, Chairman Goodlatte. I wanted to focus my comments on another part of sensitive data, which is face recognition technology. This is also an area where we've had a lot of bipartisan interest. There's a lot of sensitive personal information that is requested constantly from law enforcement, from both commercial brokers and state governments to surveil the public with face recognition technology. But face recognition technology is up to 100 times more likely to misidentify people of color, and there are very few guardrails in place to regulate the use. The unregulated application of this technology to our most sensitive information, our faces, is precisely why I introduced the Facial Recognition and Biometric Technology Moratorium Act, which presses a pause. It doesn't say never, but it presses a pause on unregulated government use of face recognition and biometric monitoring. This past year, the IRS planned to contract with ID.me, requiring anyone accessing their tax records online to upload images of their photo IDs and a live video of their face with a computer or a smartphone. And while the IRS ultimately abandoned this plan, ID.me still has contracts with 10 federal agencies and 30 states. And in fact, there's an entire market of commercial platforms that collect sensitive data from users to sell to the government. And because I want anybody who's watching this hearing to understand what pieces of data, I'm gonna direct some questions at you, Professor Lambden, just on, you can just answer yes or no in terms of whether this information is available to the government. So the LexisNexis Digital Identity Network collects and processes people's online logins, payments, and new account applications. Is that information available to the government?
Yes.
Babel Street collects digital device location data derived from online advertisers and popular mobile apps. Is that information available to the government?
Yes.
Clearview AI uses facial recognition technology to harvest and store millions of photos from social media users across multiple platforms. Is that information available to the government?
Yes.
So these are just examples of the many ways in which, if you're just using the internet, you're using programs, your information is accessible. Now, the federal government also uses face recognition technology to analyze state-level data. And since 2015, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has performed face recognition scans of driver's license databases in at least 14 states. Up until the discovery of this practice in 2018, this included my home state of Washington. Professor Wexler, are immigrants the only people whose licenses are being processed here, or does it go way beyond that? What Fourth Amendment, let me just add to that, what Fourth Amendment implications does this have for every person in the country?
It goes way beyond this. Everybody's information is being collected and their faces are being included in DMV and other databases. So this is an issue that affects all of us.
And driver's licenses, when you think about it, we use it for everything. I mean, literally everything. So, Professor Lambden, just staying with ICE for a minute, how does ICE's use of facial recognition technology on state driver's licenses impact people's lives? And are there impacts on public safety or health?
Yes. So that's why I think the title of today's hearing is Dragnet, right? They don't just pick out particular driver's licenses. They sift all of our driver's licenses and all of our data through these systems, these predictive policing systems, predictive analytics systems. And especially in the case of driver's licenses, car tracking, there have been, fatal car chases. There have been all sorts of incidents where people's lives have been put at risk due to kind of this data tracking and people's use of data. Or, I'm sorry, ICE's use of data.
So it's really not that ICE is just focusing on immigrants as they go through. They're going to take the entire scope of driver's licenses that are there and analyze anybody's, yours, mine, anybody's.
Exactly. They're going to sift everybody's data through their system, and they have access to everybody's data. And as you said, these systems tend to discriminate and have biases and have just kind of errors in them that tend to target certain types of, like you said about facial recognition, it tends to disproportionately misidentify people of color. So yeah.
Thank you. I think it's important for people to understand, and I'm glad for this hearing because the federal government has built out a very invasive and unregulated surveillance infrastructure through the use of these technologies, including face recognition technology. I had a question for you, Chairman Goodlatte, but I am out of time, so I thank you again for being here.